This is a Phantom Thoughts RPG a Day 2025 episode. For this year, for RPG a Day, I will attempt to use the prompts to create elements of an adventure module. So hopefully by the end of the month, I'll have everything you need that you put together party characters and go on an adventure. RPG a Day 2025, Day 28, Suspense. Suspense is more than the anticipation of the answer to a question or solution of a mystery. For there to be suspense, there has to be an emotional investment or tension on the part of the PCs or the players. This is difficult to manufacture, particularly when building a module that is not for a specific campaign or group of players like I'm doing here. And even when doing so for a specific play group, it's still difficult. I know a lot of the Day 22 Ally podcasts I listen to for RPG a Day this year mentioned and gave examples of player groups not being predictable in terms of which NPCs they would take a shine to and adopt as friends or allies, where the game master would have NPCs that were kind of around because they were there to provide information if the PCs were to question them, and instead the PCs would ask about some random person on the street or in the tavern, and the game master would quickly give them a name and maybe a little piece of information what they looked like, and then the PCs were just enthralled and just all into this person. So in this adventure or module, the potential points of suspense are the nature of the lost god, if the players get wind of that, or if the Lamia Noble reveals it to them because they feel that the PCs are trustworthy to know that part. The true identity of the Lamia Noble, of course, if the PCs get a sense that the merchant's wife isn't what she appears to be, or potentially, and if they anticipate an ambush, if they discover as a result of their interaction with other factions or with rumors that they hear that other factions are attempting to stop or waylay or take over or mislead the caravan, or especially if the PCs decide to throw in with one of these factions and lead the caravan into a trap for one of the other factions. That there'll be discussions about what's going to happen, but the exact timing will come to how things play out, and in some cases how the dice roll, and so there'll be suspense in that. And a prime source of the suspense may be when the players find signs of the different creatures in the Lamia Noble's former lair, if they decide to take that path and begin to anticipate encountering these creatures or having a conflict with these creatures, because these are some pretty powerful creatures we're talking about that have taken up residence in the former lair of the Lamia Noble. But another source of suspense could be the fighter that the party encounters while they're with the caravan, a fighter that was part of a group trying to get into a group of ruins to the north, and the party was trapped by a group that was passing by that is allied with the mercenaries trying to keep adventurers out of the area. And the reason why this could be a source of suspense is, the party themselves being adventurers, they know that it's potentially possible that this group, or perhaps another group allied with the mercenaries or the mercenaries themselves, could be lurking out in the wilderness, looking to waylay the party themselves. Not necessarily the caravan, but also possibly the caravan, because harming the caravan, turning them around, would do damage to the reputation of the PCs and potentially other adventurers as well. The mercenaries could use that as, these guys don't know what they're doing. They're not trained to guard caravans, and so you should trust us instead of hiring on these adventurers. So there are a lot of questions still to answer under this circumstance. Why was this particular group passing near the ruins? Was there something about the ruins that the mercenaries were trying to keep people away, or was it just they were doing some kind of a sweep in the area, looking to drive off or dissuade any adventurers or sending a message to adventurers, because if an adventure group goes out to the wilderness and doesn't come back, then maybe that will be a reason why adventurers might want to move on to greener pastures, as it were. So not knowing what this group, probably a group of adventurers allied with the mercenaries, what their mission is, what they're doing, where they are. This may provide the PCs with a reason to eventually help this fighter that they come across to track down this group and see what is going on. It can, perhaps depending on what information the fighter has about the ruins that group was trying to get into, maybe the party would want to explore that and see if that's related to why that party was trapped, or perhaps it had nothing to do with it. In a similar manner, you could build suspense with rumors. That's one thing I haven't really done anything much of. Obviously, the machinations of the various factions will generate rumors within the city, but there could be rumors about what's going on in the wild lands to the north of the city-state where the party will be adventuring. So another way of building suspense is the signs that various creatures may leave or provide out in the wilderness when the party is traveling with the caravan. So, for example, one of the early creatures we have nearer to the city-state is the Shrieker. And the Shrieker emits a terrible sound when it is confronted or startled or what have you. So they could hear those in the distance. They could hear these shrieks, and they might not understand what they are. They might not be intelligible or understandable as being from a Shrieker, or perhaps the party has not encountered shriekers before, so they wouldn't know what one sounds like. There are numerous flying creatures on the random encounters lists that I generated back on day 21. Griffins and cockatrices, a young adult green dragon, giant owl, giant bat. So these are creatures that would be maybe seen in the distance, just something large flapping along, and something that looked, particularly in the case of like a cockatrice, very unnatural. So that would be something that would provide suspense as they flew and then ended up flying behind a mountain or ducking into some trees, and the party would be left to wonder what type of ambush might await them as they continue. There are also a variety of spider and spider-like creatures on the random tables here. We have large spiders and giant spiders and ettercaps. And so those would leave webs and webbing around. So if they start getting into an area with thick webs, they start wondering what is the size of the spiders that created these webs and where are they lurking. We have giant centipedes. Giant centipedes would be enormous creatures leaving lots of little footprints as they travel along, or maybe it would just look like it might look like a track of an army marching in single file with so many footprints close together. So that would be something that would provide suspense. What is the party about to run into? What is this caravan about to encounter if it continues along this direction? And then, of course, we have the various humanoids that are on these lists: orcs and gnolls and duergars, which would leave signs of their passing, just the disturbed ground, like a large body of troops moving along. Could be the remains of ambushed caravans, maybe even still smoldering if it's something that happened recently and they're still nearby. They might hear the approach if it's a very large number of creatures, that just this tumultuous rumble that begins to approach as an army of gnolls nears the caravan's location. And I've seen this factored in various blogs and various RPGs, the idea that the encounter tables would include not just the encounters themselves, but signs leading up to the encounters. In fact, in a previous episode, when I pulled from the RPG Ruin Masters. They have tables for that. Those were the tables that I used to generate the hexes of the caravan route. They have the opportunity that you would have signs, and some systems call them near encounters, where that would show that was something amiss, and you could relate those to your. If you're creating your own random encounter tables, you could relate those to those encounter tables so that they tie more closely to the dangers that lurk in the wilderness for the PCs. And this would build the suspense and maybe encourage the party to be more proactive, to enact scouting, to investigate further some of the signs to see if they could determine what kind of creatures they're dealing with, to question members of the caravan that maybe have traveled this way before or in this region that might have some idea of what these signs represent. So it'll be an opportunity for interaction with NPC members of the caravan and a way of gathering intelligence to provide the players with more information so they can create a better plan to ensure their success and survival. So certainly there are many ways to create and utilize suspense on an adventure. The opening theme of this podcast was Strength of the Titans, and the closing music is Late and Out Radio, both from Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. If you have any thoughts or feedback, you can get in touch with me by leaving me a voice message on my Google Voice number, 864-209-1441. That's 864-209-1441. Or through SpeakPipe at www.speakpipe.com/Phantom Thoughts. That's www.speakpipe.com/Phantom Thoughts. Or you can send me a message or an audio file on Discord, where I can be found the Pink Phantom, or through email, phantomthoughtspodcast@gmail.com. That's phantomthoughtspodcast@gmail.com. I don't have to play or read your feedback on the podcast if that is not your preference. Just let me know.